Hey everybody, my name is Andrew Connell. One of the roles I serve on the PMP team. It's kind of like the issue list, the main issue list for SharePoint devs, as like the bouncer or like the moderator or whatever you want to say. So this is the issue list that we're talking about. We're talking about the SP Dev Docs issue list. Now, I want to just talk some of the stuff you may already know, some stuff you may not know, some stuff may be new to new people. So I'm going to try and cover a couple different things here. And part of this, part of the reasons I'm covering this is because we've done this in the past, but we've had some people, I know we had some comments last time around while I was presenting some stuff, and I want to cover a couple things or address a couple things that came up. First of all, this issue list is like the main place for developers, for SharePoint developers to go to, that you can go to ask questions, you can submit a bug, you can say you have an issue with something, and it's the main place to go though where the topic that you're submitting on doesn't have like another home. So like for example, we have another repo that we can take a look at. If you look at the SP, I think it's provisioning. Is that it? Nope, that's not it. So I'll just find that really quick. If I come over here to the SharePoint org and I look for provisioning, SP provisioning service. So here, like the provisioning service. And what you'll see is that some people have been, we've had some questions being posted to the SP Dev Docs issue list. And so what we've done as these have come in, I'm trying to find, I'll see if I can find one that we did the other day. Maybe this one, this is a good one, just kind of, yeah. So what you'll see is that some people have posted this to somewhere else, like the SP Dev Docs issue list. And what we've done is we are trying to keep things kind of organized, and different repositories that we have in the SharePoint GitHub organization are considered like supported things. So, you know, issues that you have with the SharePoint framework or with add-ins or with SharePoint Online or SharePoint On-Prem, those things are like supported things. Those are things that Microsoft wants to fix if there's an issue or needs to help if there's something going on. But other services that we have, such as like the reusable React controls that Elio spends a lot of time with for both the property pane or your React-based web parts, or at the present time, like the provisioning service, or any of the PowerShell, the PMP PowerShell stuff that Erwin spends a lot of time on. Some of these things may not be supported by Microsoft. And so when an issue comes in, we're trying to make sure that those issues are going to the repository where they really should be going. So like in this case here, this individual had submitted an issue about the provisioning service. And so what we did is you'll see, I'm posting this kind of canned message here, but what it does is we are able to transfer these issues from one issue list over to another one. And so if you see, I would encourage you to please try to put it in the right repository. But when things get moved around, it's not somebody passing the buck. It just, those issues kind of make sense in another spot. Like everything related to the provisioning service really should be going in this issue list. So that's one thing I wanted to cover. If you're not sure which one to put it in, you can always do a search by just going to the SharePoint org, doing a search inside this find repository, and go ahead and do a search to find where something would be. So maybe PNP core, their sites core. There's different ones that you can submit to. And if you can't find it, if you use the SP Dev Docs, that's fine. We can go through and we can rehome it if we need to rehome it and send it somewhere else. Another thing that I want to cover here is just really quickly just to explain how the issue list works on the, let me go back to my issue list for this issue list here. Let me explain a little bit about a bot that we have that's running in the background here. So in the background, one of the things we have, this is a good example here, is that when someone submits, I'm just going to pick the first one that I see, we have a couple things that are set up that automate the closing of certain issues, and that's just to keep things kind of, keep things flowing in a good way. So we have two workflows that are running behind the scenes that are automating the issue list. One of them is that when, let's say you submit a question, like this individual submitted a question here, and we had somebody, has responded to this person about asking a question or saying, hey, we need more information or something like that. And what we do is we tag it with this needs author feedback label. Now what that does is that kicks off kind of like a timer. And it goes for a total of about 14 days. The first thing that it goes through, the first 7 days, is it's basically waiting for the original poster of the issue. You see us refer to that in the issue list as OP. So if the original poster of the issue, if they don't respond within 7 days, then the issue gets tagged as stale. Let's see if I can just scroll through really quick and find a stale issue. Usually there's always at least one. There we go, no recent activity. So what the workflow does is it will then post a message here. So let me jump down and show you the message that we get. Right here it says the issue is automatically be marked as stale because it was marked as requiring author feedback and it is no activity for 7 days. So that's just to notify the person that it should be, that they should respond to it, that we need more information here. So this is where I responded to them. If they don't respond for another 7 days, so total time that's elapsed now is 14, then the issue is going to automatically be closed because apparently the person posted the question, we need more information to help with it, and there's really no, if they're not going to engage and kind of help to be able to close it, then there's really no reason to leave the issue open. So we go ahead and close it. We can always reopen issues if we need to, but we go ahead and close it right away. Another thing too that we do here, that's a good question, Vincent. I don't know the answer to that, if the original posters can reopen closed issues or not. So I don't know if that's if you can...
Yeah, so they cannot. And it's actually from a tracking perspective, it's better that you open a new issue because we track these also internally. Everything is replicated automatically to our internal system. So if internally we consider the issue being closed, and then somebody would reopen the issue in GitHub, that would actually make things complicated. So
right. So
new issue is better.
Right. So yeah, the new issues are definitely going to be better if we've closed one and we think it's open. I mean, of course, that there's sometimes we do go back and say, if we've closed it and it wasn't supposed to be closed and things weren't being tracked, then yes, I do go ahead and reopen those. But I know which ones are being tracked internally, and we make sure that things don't get orphaned. And we think it's open and Microsoft's looking at it, but they don't really know that because they think it was all closed. So if the original poster does eventually, going back to my scenario, if the original poster does go back and does answer or does provide feedback, for example, like this item right here, then what the bot does is it goes in and removes that needs author feedback and it adds this label of needs attention. And what that does is really just highlight to someone on the list that, hey, now we've got some things where people have responded and now there's time for someone on that knows something about this topic to jump in and help. Another thing too that I want to cover briefly is about you'll see these things for needs triage, and what that does, whenever a new issue is added to this list, which can happen in one of two ways. Either someone has manually come to the list and submitted an issue, or like, let's see, by chance if this one is a good example. No, this one wasn't a good one. When you submit a question in the SharePoint framework, or the SharePoint documentation, so if I go over to the SharePoint docs and I scroll to the bottom of any page, you'll see this part about adding feedback. And if you submit a question down here, so let's just grab this, then you'll see that some extra stuff gets added, and it automatically will get a tag of triage. Now this one's a little old, so the workflow hasn't kicked in just yet. But it'll get a tag here or a label of needs triage. What this is going to do, when we take the triage label off, once we have been able to give it a label, it doesn't mean that we have an answer for you, but we'll be able to give it a label and kind of classify it. I spend a lot of time on the issue list, and I know some people have thought, hey, you said you triaged it, but you didn't answer the question. Like, well, certain things, like if it's column formatting and list formatting, or row and column formatting, I don't know that technology as well as someone like Chris Kent does. And so I will remove the triage label, I'll tag it as list formatting, and then when Chris has some spare time and he has a chance to go in there and take a look at it, then he'll go in and take a look at the issue, and he'll go through and respond to it, or someone else can jump in and do it. Vincent's got a question here. Says needs attention equals needs attention from the contributors or the form or from the broader community. So the answer on needs attention is saying is back to the original poster. The workflow is only looking at the original poster. That's one of the things where things can get a little screwy, where like if we have like one person submits a question and then other people chime in and start kind of jumping on board and kind of piggybacking on the question. If we go back and ask them, like if I respond and say, hey, we need to know what browser you're talking about, what SharePoint environment you're talking about, what version of the SharePoint framework, and if the original poster does not respond, but everyone else does, that doesn't really count in terms of the workflow. We just can't, and the workflow just doesn't support that. So yes, technically that issue could automatically get closed, but we watch that. I mean, if I'm going through and commenting on it, I get a notification when something pops up. When something gets closed, and if someone responds with, hey, this shouldn't have been closed yet, those are the things we look at and say, oh, let me go back and let me reopen that, and I can remove the label. So it's like an 80-20 rule on the workflows. Some stuff may fall through the cracks, but we'll always go back and fix it if we can, when we can, and when we are aware of it. Now, there's another thing that I want to cover here, and this one's kind of near and dear to me because it came up last time, and we had one person respond in the chat, and I'm gonna try to be as diplomatic or as polite as I can with this, but I really want you to really keep in mind here that this issue list is not Microsoft paid support, right? If you have a Premier account and you need to open up a ticket, you need to get an engineer assigned to it and get it fixed, or you have an outage or something, that's what paid support is. This is a community forum where people can go through and can ask questions. So when you go over here to submit an issue, one of the things that we've done is we have this default kind of template form that we've set up here, right? And it has all this stuff in it. You want to see what it looks like? Here's the source of it. If you go to preview, you can see what a preview of the rendering is all set up here. Now, what we've done with this is we've tried to provide you with as much of a template for where you can submit your question. And I'm not going to call anybody specific out because, frankly, I don't know who this person was. But last time we had somebody had the feedback that said, I'm not going to take all this time to fill this out. If you make me do that, I'm not going to submit any questions. And let me just be as blunt as I possibly can, but at the same time being as polite as I can. The people that are in here that are helping you are usually doing it as contributing their own time to do it. Like for me personally, I know Chris Kent's the same way. Just calling Chris and I out, Paolo's the same way. Bo Cameron's the same way. I'm calling out just a bunch of names. David Warner's the same way. All these people are contributing their own time. Nobody's getting paid to do this. This is your free time that you can do where you can instead be spending time surfing Reddit. If you don't provide enough information to make it easier for me to help you, the ones that are going to get, hey, wait a minute, Chris. So if you make it harder for me to answer your question, I'm probably going to be more inclined to help someone else who's made it easier to answer the question because they provided enough information. If you just go through and leave this entire form as is and then post your entire stack trace in the title of the issue, you're probably not going to get much help. Right? You need to think about being respectful of other people's times. Help me help you. Think about it like that. Right? Same thing like Rob said. It's the same as Stack Overflow. So let me just show you what a couple tips and tricks of when you're going through and you're creating an issue here. So I'm going to go through and create this issue that my coffee is cold. Really bad issue because this is something that Microsoft hasn't fixed. My God, it actually found related issues. That's ridiculous. But it says I'm saying my coffee is cold. Now, a couple things I want to show you here. First of all, this is all about, hey, what should you do with this? Well, delete this paragraph after reading. Hey, it's an instruction, guys. Make it easy. You just delete it. Another thing, too, how do I check these boxes? Now, this is something that it seems like 99% of the people miss on this. This is a cool capability that GitHub does. Notice right here, I've even added in an example to this. If you want an item to get checked, you put the X like this. If you put the X inside that thing and you still have a little space sitting right after it, it doesn't render as checked. You get this weird kind of rendering here. But look, if you actually left it, if you took the space out, just like the example one shows, ta-da, look at that. We got a checkbox. That makes things easier. If you want to delete all these, hey, that's cool. If you want to delete this guy too, that's cool too. You can do all that stuff, right? I'm trying to channel my inner Chris Kent and my enthusiasm right now. This even has instructions on how to do it. Look, if you just go through, if a check is checked with this, it'll show up as checked, right? So make life a little bit easier. Oh yeah, by the way, delete this paragraph after reading. Okay, so we've read that. We can move on. So this is a cool article idea. Expected behavior. What did you expect to have happen? What should have happened here? Tell me that. My coffee should be hot, right? My observed behavior. I listened to Chris Kent too much, and now it's cold. Steps to reproduce it. Go back in time and listen to Chris again, right? Submission guidelines. You don't need any of this submission guideline stuff. We can delete all of that. And what do you have for an issue? Ta-da! Look at that. It looks so much better. It should have been hot. Got it? Okay. Observed. I listened to Chris Kent too much and now it's cold. How do I reproduce it? Cool. I can totally reproduce this. This is something that I can address and I can fix. But hey, maybe you got some stuff with code. Like I saw an issue that someone posted a minute ago with some code issues here. And here's some cool things you can do with this. I can go through and put this little code fencing by put this little single quote tick right here. Right? Where is, hold on really quick. I had a simple snippet. Let's grab right there. I have a little bit of JSON here and I can just post it in. It looks good, right? Go over to the preview and take a look at it. No, it looks like crap. It doesn't look any kind of formatting like what I had before. That's not what we want. There's a cool way that you can do this. If I come over here, if you just have like a single line of formatting that you want to do, that's fine. You can do it like that with a single tick, but check this out. If I come over here and I put 3 ticks and I say it's, and I put 3 ticks like that, and then put 3 ticks at the end of it, and then I do the preview, now it's formatted and it's got nice kind of indentation the way it's set up. And even better yet, let's go further with this. If I tell it what the data type is, like JSON, ta-da, look at that. I even got color formatting here. We know all kinds of things. We can do TypeScript and just do TS or TypeScript. We can do JavaScript or JavaScript. We can do PowerShell or PowerShell. What about if you're going to do something at the command line? Shell, right? You do the command shell just like this. Or you can even do C# for CS. All of these things, it formats the code. It makes it easier to read. So like check this out. If I come over here to this issue, I saw this one that popped up a few minutes ago. See all this XML? Watch this. If I come over here, grab this issue, I'm going to edit it, and we're going to change this to be, I'm going to fence it to go through like this, and I update the comment, and isn't that easier to read? That's so much easier to read. It's so much easier to consume instead of looking at well, first of all, it's XML, so it's not easy to read and it's not fun, but that's much more pleasant to read and understand how this works. So the more that you can do to make these issues easier for us to read, other people to consume, it's easier for other people to figure out what's wrong, what problem are you having, how can we help you with this. If you want to see how to do all of these different kinds of formatting things, you can just do a quick little Google it on Bing. Go, what's it called? GitHub flavored Markdown. Do a search for GitHub flavored Markdown. Click on the very first link that you get right here. It tells you a whole bunch of stuff about how this works. What is Markdown? How do you do it? What do you want to do? A bulleted list? You could do it like this. You could have real numbers like this. Here's numbers that look like this. You can mix and match stuff. Talks about how to do hyperlinks. Talks about how to do all kinds of stuff is listed in here in this piece. If I back up, you can even see docs coming straight from GitHub on mastering Markdown. Second one, even more details about this. How do you do images? How do you do lists? How do you do headers and quotes? Or how do you do code? Like, see, there's the fenced code or fenced code with a specific language. And it even has a link in here somewhere that talks about the different versions of the different code that we can do. We do the same thing with the pull request as well. If I come over and I want to open up a new pull request, notice we have the, where is it? I don't have it. Oh, where's my issue? Let's just go over here, open to the code, GitHub, and I will show you the pull request template. So here's the template we use for a pull request. Same deal. What is it, a content fix or is it a new item? Now this is really slick. When you submit a pull request, if you put in here, now you have to do it for each one, but see where it says fixes, issues, or it partially does something, or it mentions the other one. If you go through and you say fixes, like let me come back to an issue. Where's my coffee? Oh, I didn't do anything with my coffee. Let's come back. Let's just think that I'm going to be doing it. Oh my goodness, it remembered it. That's pretty cool, GitHub. All right. So what about this? Observe behavior. Now watch this. I can do cool links inside of this. If I say like this references issue number, it's issues that issue right there. So that is going to automatically hyperlink straight to that issue and give us nice little details. But when you do a pull request, if it closes an item, if I say closes that item right there, then when we go in, first of all, with that reference, it's going to add that link to the reference link. So if I go to this issue right now, if I created this, it would add a link inside of the history for that issue to this item right here. And if I submit this as a pull request and I submit and the pull request gets merged, it'll automatically close the issue when the pull request is done. One little trick about this, you can do closes, you can do fixes, but if you do this and you are closing multiple issues, you got to do them all individually like this. You can't do like fixes 2312. GitHub doesn't understand that, right? It doesn't understand that these are all fixes. You have to do each one individually like that. It's kind of a pain, but hey, it's not that bad. And before you ask, no, Azure DevOps doesn't do some of this stuff. These are GitHub specific, like auto close stuff. Found that out the hard way. Let's see, I could keep going, but let me just double check and make. I haven't seen anything from Chax. You want me to keep going, Vesa, or?
Great timing. So unfortunately, just to confirm, we cannot get Chax on the call right now. We've been working on the backend on that one, but there's too many technical issues. So you can continue. If there's any other technical questions or whatever, we can have a chat on the Iron window as you go through these things. Chax demo will be recorded as a separate one, unfortunately, and starting from August will be in Teams platform. So that should help on these things as well.
Cool. Okay, so I will continue going while you work on Chax's backend. Is that what you're saying?
So Chax demo will be canceled, so not today. So yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to be funny.
Yeah, I noticed.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see. All right. So what else do I want to cover here? Let's see. Does anybody else have any other questions about this stuff? Here's another one that we have. So different issues. Let me come over to the issues here, and let's come over to our labels. Where's our Let's come over to our labels here. So here in the labels, this is a list of all of the different things that we have, all of our different labels that we have set up here. Now, these ones that you see with area, those are going to be things that we're classifying like what kind of a thing it is. And one of the things we did just recently too is that we broke out the SharePoint framework label into a framework general and a framework extensions, because we had a lot of issues that were specific to extensions. And so I went in and found all the ones that were related to extensions, or at least I think I did. And I removed the framework label and I added in the framework extensions label to hopefully make things a little bit better. Now, another thing that we have here is, let me jump over to, okay, let me show you these guys right here. So these blue ones about status. Now, let's see, feedback, adding description of labels would help people understand the flow. That's a good issue. Hey, Vincent, can you submit an issue on that and tag me on it? Because you're right, because once I do that, I can close the issue. Haha. Cool. All right, so I'm trying to eat my own dog food. Now for the status here, a couple things you've got. These are telling you some things about the issue you submitted. So for example, let's say for example that you submitted an issue and I looked at this issue, or someone looked at the issue and they said, you know, this issue is pretty much the exact same thing that we saw someone else post, and we're already tracking that other issue. Like, hey, like when there was something that happened, I think with the Azure AD and token acquisition, something broke a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago, and we saw all these issues coming in. One issue was where everybody was kind of consolidating stuff, but we still saw other issues coming in. What we do, and what the general practice is when you do this with open source projects, is if we have more issues that are the same thing and they're just +1s, then what we're going to do is we're going to tag it as a duplicate. In the comments, we'll reference, hey, this is a duplicate of issue number, blah, 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 blah. And then we're going to tag it as duplicate, and then we're going to close your issue. And if you have something that you can add to the issue, additional information, you don't need to say +1 me too, +1 me too. But if you have additional information that you can provide, go put it on that original one. It just makes it easier so we don't have lots of issues and we think we've got like 15 different problems with one thing when it's really one problem that's affecting a lot of people. If you ask a question, if we tag it as status answered, so if we answer it and then we tag it as status answer, or someone answers it, then what that does is that's also going to kick off another one of our internal workflows. And if you don't respond or jump in within 7 days, it's automatically going to close that issue, because as far as we're concerned, if you asked a question and someone has answered it and it's been tagged as an answer, then everything is resolved. If you haven't, if it's not answered, then respond. Then just jump in and say something. I mean, you get email alerts when this stuff happens, and you can jump in and you can respond and provide your additional details. But if you don't respond, then as far as we're concerned, it's done. And so let's go ahead and close it. Now, these other ones that you see down here, where it's like fixed, fix next drop, track, working on it. So how do these work? So let's say, for example, that you've logged something into the issue list and there's a bug, and it's been recognized as a bug, right? Someone jumped in and said, yep, that's a problem. If Microsoft says that they are working on a fix, then we'll tag it as working on it. And that essentially is saying that, hey, it's a known issue, the feature is being addressed, we'll use other status labels in the comments for more details. If they fixed it and it's coming any day now, or it's going to be released any day now, and we're just waiting for it to roll through all the tenants, we're going to say fix next drop. That applies to both things that are server-side in SharePoint Online. That also applies to things in, like, say, for example, in the tooling, like in SharePoint Framework tooling that we have, it'll be updated in the next drop. If the issue has now been confirmed to have been fixed and rolled out, we'll tag it as fixed and then close the issues. What this allows us to do is to easily go back and find issues that are still open that really need to be cleaned up once they've all been done. And then if you post a question, like just a little bit ago, I saw a question that came in where someone said, hey, the bot framework v4 install doesn't work. And I'm like, this is SharePoint, guys. So we tagged it as type invalid, and we closed it. It's like, that doesn't really belong here. Someone else actually responded and said, that doesn't really belong here. You really should go do that in their form. And then there was a follow-up question to it, but it didn't really apply really to SharePoint specifically. And so we tagged it as invalid. That's pretty much a lot of the stuff that I wanted to run to. Let's see, double check how we're using labels, how the bots work, how to submit a good issue, or at least in my opinion, how to submit a good issue, how we're rehoming or transferring issues to different repos. And I think that's basically it. If you guys have any questions about how we're using the issue list or whatever, these community calls are absolutely fantastic. I'm going to take the recording that we've gone through here and some of the questions that I've answered here and some of the feedback we've gotten. I'm going to try and write this up into having a more like official kind of how-to, putting it as either like in one of the docs in the issue list or in the repo or off the wiki. And we'll update the issue list template with a link to say, hey, here's where you go to go do this stuff. I may even put some animated images in there and stuff like that, and different references on where you can find better GitHub stuff. If you've got any feedback, submit an issue and call me out. Do @AndrewConnell. You sit there and something that makes the issue list better is, well, there you go. Here, Vincent's going through and he's already called me out. More work for a nice checkbox, Vincent. If you want to go through and you want to make sure that I see it and working with the issue list, who likes that? Oh, Sebastian, thanks, Sebastian. Then just go through and tag me as @AndrewConnell. I'll definitely see it. The one thing I guess we would ask is, I'm asking for you specifically to tag me on this, but when you ask a question, it's best to just ask the question and not tag specific people. Ask it, and the people, when they have time, they jump in to actually give you a hand. Don't start going in and just saying, hey, I have a question about column formatting, and then people start tagging all these different people, and like dear Vessa and dear Chris Kent in Switzerland and all that stuff. It's just go through and post the issue, and we'll go through and make sure that the people that need to see it. But I will go ahead and assume ownership of this one, and I'll say I'm working on it. Triage. There you go. Thanks, Vincent. Montreal is plotting against you. Oh, it's the aggression from the north. All right, cool. So I think, Vessa, that's probably everything, unless you've got a question for me.
No, I about the process, you mean? Let's see.
Your process.
Anyway, so and thank you, AC, for taking the lead on that one, because that definitely helps on scaling these things, and that's what we want to do within the SharePoint. And together with community, together with MVPs, we built this world together, and it's how it should be done, because you people in the field, you actually work with these people, with the customers, you work with other people, and that helps on well, getting the things more real world. That is one of the key points here as well. But thank you, AC, for that one.